flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff.
Stolen by Ehlers to Wheeler, back to Ehlers, scores!
Kyle Connor has the Midas touch right now.
And another outstanding stop by Connor Hellebuyck.
Check the shoot, score! Oh, what a slick move by Mark Scheifele.
Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets, hosted by Jets TV.
Hello, friends, and welcome to this tradition unlike any other, the Ground Control podcast, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets.
Yes.
I still got Masters on the mind, and how could you not? Congrats to Hideki Matsuyama for taking the green jacket on Sunday. But we're moving on.
We need the birds. We need the birds in the background.
Oh, there they are.
Oh, yes, the birds. Oh, yeah. Joined here by Jets TV's Mitchell Clinton and CJOB's Jamie Thomas. Gentlemen, a new week of Winnipeg Jets hockey is upon us. We're in the final stretch of the regular season. The trade deadline has come and gone, and we'll get to that in a minute. But first, let's talk about the week that was. The Winnipeg Jets picking up a win over the Ottawa Senators back on April 5th, 4-3, and then on the road on April 8th and 10th. They both picked up wins in Montreal, swept that two-game set, a 4-2 and 5-0 win, respectively. My goodness, just figure it out here.
That's Masters on the mind.
Yeah. Everything is very respectful at the Masters. Jamie, tell me about the week. What did we learn about the Winnipeg Jets, and what did you think they did well? Obviously, Monday's game aside, as the Winnipeg Jets fell 4-2 in Ottawa last night as we record this on Tuesday.
Well, I think it starts off the week last week, Tyler, with the benefit of the Vancouver Canucks COVID situation, because you knocked 2 games off your schedule, and the Jets would have had 7 consecutive weeks of 4 games or more, or 4 games per week, and that kind of broke things up a little bit. So they looked well rested against Ottawa last Monday and would have ran them out of the building entirely if not for Anton Forsberg. The 2 wins in Montreal, I think those are all on Connor Hellebuyck. 36 of 38 saves on the first win on the Thursday, and then Saturday he was brilliant in the first period, and that allowed the Jets to get their legs underneath them, and they ran them out of the building, that 5-0 game. And then, Ottawa basically, to me, was the worst thing that could have happened to them. They didn't play well. They're out to a 2-0 lead, and then they get the penalty. Brady Tkachuk scores in the power play, and it's kind of downhill from there. But in that middle period in Ottawa, 3 power plays, and you generate not a lot. Anton Forsberg was pretty good. But overall, just I think that's a write-off game. You throw it away. Connor Hellebuyck wasn't very good. We're not going to get into, just weird things happen with him. He allowed Connor Brown to extend his goal-scoring streak to 8 with a puck that goes off his glove. And then the bouncing goal was something you haven't seen him in a long time. But, the power play and penalty kill was good in those 3 wins. Hellebuyck was great in those 3 wins. I think overall, you'll take 6 out of a possible 8 points. Absolutely.
So switching things over to the trade deadline, the Winnipeg Jets acquiring Jordie Benn from the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for a 2021 6th-round pick. Outside of that, no other moves for the Winnipeg Jets. Obviously, I'm sure Chevy was kicking tires and had irons in the fire in many different areas, but there wasn't a deal that made sense for the Jets in the short and long term. So, Mitch, tell us about Jordie Benn. What type of player are the Winnipeg Jets getting in Jordie Benn?
Yeah, just to pick up on your previous point there, I mean, Kevin Cheveldayoff did tell the media that they did, they were talking about other players, and they went into this market prepared to pay the prices that seemed appropriate and kind of the going market rate, if you will. And just, I don't know if those prices continued to get higher or what it was, but Kevin Cheveldayoff just said, you know what, it's in the best of our organization not to, pay those steep prices that are out there. So ultimately the deal for Jordie Benn kind of comes together real tight to the deadline. He's got over 500 games in the National Hockey League, some playoff experience as well. Some of the analytics would show he plays well with puck moving defensemen, which is important because that's what the Winnipeg Jets seem to have on their blue line. So his best possession numbers were with Quinn Hughes in Vancouver. Now, Hughes is obviously a heck of a player, but having someone solid to rely on, a more stay-at-home type, if you will, helps players like that get up the ice. So that's something that Jordie Benn can do as well. Obviously, he's a physical guy. That being said, he's a solid depth pickup for the price, and we'll see how much game action he gets and how all that shakes down. That's for Paul Maurice to decide what's best for the club. But I'm intrigued with the fact that Kevin Cheveldayoff continues to speak of the opportunity that Ville Heinola is going to get. I'm wondering if as the season winds down here, and this will be something I'm keeping an eye on, if Heinola doesn't get a look. He played in one game at the NHL level this season, and Cheveldayoff said, he looks more like a pro this season than in last season. So when he played more games, just out of necessity with what happened to the Jets blue line. So either way, Jordie Benn obviously will be a welcome addition, as you heard a lot of the players say after the game in Ottawa. Another body added to the blue line depth, which I believe it was Craig Heisinger that always said this, even when the Moose were in town, you can never have too many defensemen. And I think that's just a slogan that goes around the league. And that's something that obviously the Winnipeg Jets are listening to with the playoffs ahead.
Jamie, looking around the league and the Scotia North Division specifically,
Yeah.
how did the landscape change? Obviously, Edmonton brought in our old friend Dmitry Kulikov. Vancouver moved a few bodies. The Toronto Maple Leafs, they added a lot of different pieces, a couple of blue liners from Montreal. Just what have you seen from the league, and how do you think things have changed since a few days ago?
Toronto clearly, Kyle Dubas said he was going to be busy, and he was, and his scouting staff is not going to be very busy over the next couple of drafts. I think Toronto's got 6 draft picks over the next 2 drafts. So curious to see how that's going to play out when you mortgage the bank on this. Nick Foligno is the big fish for Kyle Dubas. He'll play in your top 6 forward group on the left side, and lowest standard would probably be the third line for him, but they get a lot bigger and stronger on the left side. Ben Hutton's a depth defenseman. David Riddick kind of speaks to what's going on with Freddie Anderson, right? You're not quite sure about the health of the Leafs goaltender in that situation. So a couple of depth moves, but the big move is Nick Foligno. Dmitry Kulikov, it's funny when we watch all these Canadian games, I didn't realize he was an analytics darling with the New Jersey Devils. So, there was, Ray Ferraro from TSN was tweeting out that Kulikov was going to be a Winnipeg Jet again, and that clearly didn't pan out, but Edmonton gets some depth on their blue line on the left side, so he's helped out there. And Mark Bergevin already made his moves a little bit earlier. He goes for more depth on the blue on John Merrill and Eric Gustafson. The key here is you're getting Brendan Gallagher back at some point, are the Montreal Canadiens, and when does Cole Caulfield come in, the Hobie Baker Trophy winner? You have to think he's going to get called up from Laval at some point and get it shot in the NHL with his goal scoring abilities. So it looks to me like it's depth moves all over the division, outside of Toronto getting a little bit better up front and a little bit bigger as well with Nick Foligno.
Calgary also moving a few pieces out, Sam Bennett being the big one. So, we wish him well down in Florida. I'm sure he won't enjoy that at all.
No. And that's not a hard division to play in right now either. That's going to be a gong show to get out of that one.
Jamie, you mentioned getting some players back in Montreal's lineup. Winnipeg's in a bit of a similar situation, Mitchell, with Blake Wheeler. The Jets have gone 3 games without their captain now. He's been skating back in Winnipeg, so things appear to be on the up and up. But, with these concussions, you never quite know until you know, type of thing. So what have you seen from the Winnipeg Jets as they've made their way through this little stretch of schedule without their captain?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I think obviously the power play is probably the part where they miss him the most, at least on the top unit. They were the ones that got the goal against the Ottawa Senators on Monday. But again, kind of further to Jamie's point from earlier, you go 1 for 5 on the power play. And this is a Jets team that, they came into that game tied for 3rd in the National Hockey League on the power play. They kind of expect, and this probably speaks just the level of talent that they have on both those units. They probably expect a little bit more out of themselves. And I think it was Paul Maurice that earlier on the road trip was speaking of, one of the places that you really miss Blake Wheeler's. Obviously, he's an elite playmaker, an elite passer. So you miss that on the power play, but you also miss him on the zone entry part of it, because he just comes up the ice with so much speed and down that lane and creates kind of the opportunity for the Jets to get into the zone. So that's something that I think that top unit has kind of been working on, trying to get a little bit better at in his absence. Mason Appleton has been the guy filling in kind of in that net front-ish area. I mean, he was almost a point per game guy in the American Hockey League, but this would be his first kind of power play opportunity at the National Hockey League level. So I think there's been a little bit of an adjustment for that. But ultimately, I think you can applaud the Winnipeg Jets, because, I mean, they go into Montreal, a team that they've had their challenges with. Yeah, they're ahead in the season series with them, but you look at the overtime games that have been there, the 1-goal games. You go in, you play Montreal, who as we said is obviously missing a key piece in Brendan Gallagher at the time. And it's the Jets that put up, some solid efforts. Connor Hellebuck obviously had a lot to say with that, but the Jets were able to get some finish from a number of guys at different spots in the lineup. So I think they've shown that, one player being out of the lineup isn't going to, completely derail this team, which I think is a really good sign, especially coming up to the end of the regular season, going into the playoffs. But they'll obviously welcome back Blake Wheeler with open arms whenever he's ready to go, which will be the other interesting part. It'll be about a week or so, by the time the Jets get back from this road trip. They've got the Edmonton Oilers on Saturday. Maybe he plays there, but Paul Maurice says the one thing he's got away is the fact that, number one, obviously Blake Wheeler's got to be ready to go. And number two, after that game on Saturday, there's a big 3-day block. And that's the last real 3-day block you're going to get for the rest of the regular season. So we'll see what kind of decisions get made as we get closer to the road trip coming to an end. But like you said, Tyler, the main thing is Blake Wheeler is skating, hasn't had any setbacks, and that's the main thing out of all this.
We've talked about the trade deadline at length for this year, but next we're going to talk to the man the Winnipeg Jets acquired at the last trade deadline a little over a year ago for the Winnipeg Jets. Dylan DeMelo, he's our guest here on Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. Dylan and I sat down in Montreal and chatted about a bunch of different things, including becoming a father, what that's been like, playing alongside Logan Stanley. And he also updated me on his master's pool. Now, this happened on Friday afternoon. So at that point, he didn't know where he was going to end up in the team master's pool. On the other side of the interview, I will tell you how he fared. Enjoy the interview.
This is Adam Lowry. You're listening to Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets.
Joined here by Dylan DeMelo here on the Ground Control podcast, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. Dylan, you're 3 months into dad life. How are you finding that so far?
It's been pretty good. Every day is unique in its own way. With the changing of the diapers and going for walks with him and baths and all that stuff. So he's grown so much so fast. We were gone there for 2 weeks and we came back. He was like a new kid. So it was really cool just to spend some time with him and help my wife out a little bit. She's been, on the grind with the feeding and with everything that goes with it. So there's definitely some tough times, but when he's smiling at you and laughing, everything, it makes up for all the hardships you have to go through.
Have you found yourself doing dad things like, thinking about buying a minivan or falling asleep on the couch type things? Oh yeah, definitely lots of naps. It's true what they say, when your kid rests, you have to rest as well. So when he naps, we're definitely napping, and definitely no minivan, not yet. I think maybe if I get to a certain age, I'll maybe think about that. But it definitely, when we knew we were having a kid, it was like, okay, well, we need to get a bigger SUV for sure. And because we got a dog too, so it's like, oh wow, you're busy then. Or we got a busy household, and then if we have another kid, it might be even a bigger SUV. So all in stages, I guess. But I mean, the back's a little tighter than it used to be, that's for sure. And from holding them and stuff, and dad's strength's maybe a real thing. We'll see about that. But it's we're enjoying every moment. That's awesome, man. All right, so going back to junior days, you were the finalist for both the OHL and the CHL Scholastic Player of the Year. You didn't win. I think it was Dougie Hamilton and Andrew D'Agostini that beat you out. But my question is, what were your favorite subjects in school that you obviously excelled at? I really enjoyed like sports science, like kinesiology. I think just from playing hockey and wondering how the body works and how it moves, and I really enjoyed that. That's kind of just something I've always enjoyed, and I'm pretty in tune with my own body and take a lot of interest in how to prepare. So that was a class that I really enjoyed, and maybe something if I went to university I probably would have followed up on. I did enjoy math. I found it very challenging, and I wasn't like a brainiac and doing, calculus or anything crazy, but I did enjoy math, and those were two of the biggest ones that I really enjoyed. You seem like a really intellectual guy. Do you have plans to continue education after hockey, or not obviously that your career's over by any stretch of the imagination, but just have you thought about that? A little bit. I don't know if I'll ever maybe go back to school and maybe get a full-on degree, maybe take some courses, who knows.
I've never really thought of that. I've always kind of thought that I would like to stay in hockey at some type of capacity when I'm done playing, if it's scouting, coaching, player development, whatever it is. And I think for me, I think I've had an interesting road, an interesting journey where I think I could help a lot of people and, work with, guys maybe playing junior or guys just turning pro and stuff like that. Because my path hasn't been easy, and I've had some ups and downs, and I'm sure as everybody has. But I think I have an interesting journey, and I think I could be able to give a lot of advice and help a lot of kids in kind of maybe that 16 to 22, 23 age group.
That actually kind of leads me into my next question. Like you said, you're a 6th round pick. That's obviously panned out. What types of things have you gone through to get to this position where now you're in the first year of a 4-year deal with an NHL club? I mean, that's got to be, the pinnacle of where you were trying to work to. So
yeah.
What has this road been like for you?
Oh, it's been a lot of fun first and foremost, and even with the ups and the downs, it's been a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed every moment. And I would say, it just hasn't been easy. And when you're a 6th rounder, you maybe don't get as long of a leash as some other guys, but San Jose was a great organization where they didn't really care kind of where you were drafted, as long as you were playing well and doing the right things, working hard, you were going to get a chance. And I got my chance, and it came, and then there was times where I was a healthy scratch for a long period of times, and I was thinking, oh man, like, I don't know, maybe my opportunity's gone. And you try to stay patient and positive, and you're doing the best you can, and then you finally get a chance and you run with it. And life's all about opportunities, and that's kind of the one thing that I noticed is when you get an opportunity, you really got to hold on to it and try to make the most of it, because it can go fast, and it's such a competitive league, and there's always guys trying to get your job. I mean, I was one of those guys, so I know what it's like. And to be able to sign a contract here with an amazing organization, 4-year deal with a little bit of security that I've been working really hard for, it's a blessing. It's a lot of hard work that's paid off, and a lot of hard work that still needs to be continued.
Was there for lack of a better term, a TSN turning point for you in the last 5-6 years that created the player that you are now?
I don't know about created. I would say maybe mentally it created a better mindset for myself, because I think my game for the most part has kind of been true since I was playing junior. He's just a smart, steady defenseman, takes care of his own end first, pitching on the offense when he can. I've never been a guy that put up a ton of points. I had a couple good years maybe in junior, but junior's junior.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of guys put up points, right? It's junior. So, in the minors, I think the most goals I ever scored was 5 goals, 22, 24 points maybe, around that range. So, I wasn't making the NHL because I was running the power play point guy. So I've always been a solid, smart, steady defenseman. That's kind of been my calling card. But mentally, I just realized, I think it was maybe my 3rd year in the NHL, is that you only can control what you can control. And, I was worried about a lot of factors that just didn't really matter at the end of the day. And I was being a healthy scratch, and, just realized you can only control what you can control. And when I had that mindset, I just felt a weight off my shoulders and felt more free out there, and felt my game improved, creativity improved. It was just a mindset thing.
So you get traded to Ottawa, and that's a blockbuster trade. And normally we always focus on the big name that goes, but you were part of that large package that went the other way. When you got to Ottawa, was there, pressure, externally, internally on yourself? Like, I'm replacing this Norris Trophy winner type thing.
I definitely didn't see it like that. Yeah, Erik Karlsson, unbelievable player, one of the best D-men of our generation for sure. Yeah, I just saw it as an opportunity for me to take that next step, and that's what I just was really excited about. And coaching staff there, Guy Boucher and his staff entrusted me right away with a top 4 role, and playing with, on their first D pair with Thomas Chabot, and he was an excellent player in his own right. So it was a lot of fun playing there, and I thought that was a lot of fun. One of my funnest years of playing hockey for sure is just because I got to play, and I was playing a lot of minutes, and it was tough. The team wasn't as strong as the teams I was in San Jose with, but it was so nice to just play and feel like you had a really good role with the team. It felt like you were making a real contribution to the team. And then, playing close to home too, as a 6-hour drive from London, and that was great to see my folks a little more, and people came up, a lot of extended family and friends, which was really cool. And just a a wild experience too, just getting traded like at the beginning of the season before training camp even started. So it was just a whirlwind, but really enjoyed my time there, and forever thankful that they traded for me, because I think I took that next step and led me to where I am today.
So like we talked about earlier, you signed the 4-year deal with Winnipeg. What was it about Winnipeg that, made you think, well, this is a place I can be long term? I'm sure you could have had multiple offers elsewhere. What was it about Winnipeg that made you think that?
Yeah, I think it was, first off, it was a great group of guys that we have. Really good leadership group led by Wheels. A lot of guys that play the right way, and we have an excellent team. So I knew right away that this was a team that could go far and has a chance. And you look at the core, I guess you could say, the nucleus of the team, all in a pretty good age range of myself as well, where we can kind of all grow together, and still got a lot of good years left. We got a great team, and the organization I've always thought highly of from the outside looking in, and well run and very professional, and I just thought it was a really good fit for my time, and that short stint that we had before the season was done. So really liked the coaching staff and how it was being used and my role on the team. So I really felt that there was a good fit. I mean, we didn't get to see too much of the city when we were here, but I heard great things about Winnipeg, and thought it might be a great spot to lay down some roots. And yeah, honestly, it couldn't have worked out any better. It was exactly what I was hoping for, and I was really happy to get it done. Yeah,
so post-pandemic, definitely going to do some touring, I would imagine.
Absolutely, yeah. I've definitely got a lot to do. I mean, just in our neighborhood, it feels very, very homey, I guess you could say. Very, very nice people when you're walking, you're saying hi, and really like the neighborhood, and just I don't know, something about Canada too. It's just people are a lot friendlier, and just say hi to you on the street, they might not even know you, and it just feels like home.
You talked about helping younger players earlier. You're paired with Logan Stanley here for the last stretch of games. What has it been like to be with Big Stan? Obviously, he's a monster on the ice.
Yeah, you know what? Stan's done a great job in his own right of stepping up and just being a really solid player. I mean, he moves the puck very well for, a guy his size. He's got a lot of skill. You maybe don't see it as much, but he makes a lot of inside plays that, lead to good breakouts, clean breakouts. And, he's got a bomb of a shot. He's using it well. He gets it through, which is half the battle for sure. So for me, I'm just trying to, try to be a good partner for him. And, I think Stan would be playing, whoever would be playing with, he'd be playing the same way. So he's doing a great job in his own right, and we're having a lot of fun together. It's he's from Waterloo, I'm from London, so we're joking that we're from the same minor hockey league. We might be the only D pair ever from the same minor hockey league. So it's been a lot of fun. He's and he's still just scratching the surface, I think, of the player he can be. With that size and that strength and his ability with the puck, he's got a very bright future.
So when Perry buries you into the boards against Montreal there on Thursday night and Stan grabs him, what are you thinking when he does something like that? I mean, Corey Perry's no joke, but Stan's obviously a monster.
Oh, I know Corey from working out in London. I was just like, oh, keep your gloves on, man. I mean, Perry's a big guy. Obviously, he can hold his own. He's been around, but Stan's just a different animal. So, very nice to Stan for stepping in there for me, for sure.
What do you think of the team this year? You're in the final stretch of the regular season. You guys are right in the thick of things in the Scotia North Division. Just what do you like about what you've seen so far from your group?
It's exactly kind of where I thought we'd be, to be honest. When I signed here, I knew we had a great squad and a team that could compete. And, we still got a lot of work left to do here down the stretch and making our game and our foundation of our game. So something that we, continue to work on every day, but we have a great team. And, from the goaltending out, I think we're really solid, and our forward group is, it's a lot of fun to play in front of them. They can make a lot of great plays, and they make our job a lot easier. So I think we just continue to grow our game here and continue to push for the playoffs, and try to just make our game as strong as it can be going into the playoffs.
You're a guy that's fairly active on Twitter, not afraid to show personality. Just what does that say about you, and why do you recognize the importance of doing things like that and not just being the cliches and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I think, I'm just trying to be authentic and just trying to be myself. I think I got a lot of good values, and I just try to showcase that. I think as athletes, unfortunate or fortunate, I don't know what the word may be, but our word carries more weight than unfortunately the average person. And I don't know if that's necessarily right, but that's the reality. So when there's issues that need to be heard, I guess I'm a guy that if I think I have something correct to say and something on an issue, I'm not shy on saying it. And I hope that people take it kind of for what it is, and maybe changes someone's mind, someone's point of view. We're not going to agree on everything, obviously, but I think as a world today, we can be more open to other point of views, and people are coming from different wavelengths of life for sure. So.
Love to hear it. COVID, obviously, it's been a whirlwind time for everybody. Did you pick up any new hobbies aside from being a dad?
I picked up the guitar a little bit. Wasn't very good at it. Tried pretty hard at it, but it's pretty tough. It's one of those things, I think, when you're younger, you pick things up a lot faster. But I was training quite a bit on my own, and when the gym was open, I was able to go to the gym, but it was kind of weird when we got shut down there. We just didn't know how long we were going to be shut down for. So, you're training, and then you're like, okay, it's going to be a little bit longer. And then you're like, okay, well, how do I do my summer program or my off-season program when you have no idea what the end game is? So it was a little touch and go that way, but definitely crushed a lot of Netflix and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess the one thing that I was trying to do was the guitar, but it's definitely a lot harder than I thought it was.
Yeah, I've never tried that one. I don't think I'm going to. What are you crushing on Netflix? What's your go-to?
Honestly, I'm just kind of whatever's trending. Watching the show called The Last Kingdom right now. It's kind of like a Viking show. It's pretty cool, and yeah, that's kind of what I'm watching.
Last one I have for you. Let's talk Masters. This is going to air on Monday after the Masters, so I'll put you on the spot here. Who do you like this week, and how's the pool going for the team?
Pool's okay. It's tight. I think it's going to go right down the wire. I think I was 5th place after day 1. Day 2 here, guys. Looks like everybody's scoring. So I think I'm going to be all right. I got JT, Cameron Smith. They're doing pretty good right now. Zalatoris is doing all right. So I think I'm okay. I need some guys to have some good rounds, though.
What do you love about the Masters? I mean, I feel like we're all on the road right now. This is Friday as we're recording this, and in the breakfast room, everyone's just glued. Is it kind of just cool to have an entire team so glued to this event?
We got a lot of guys that like to golf for sure,
Yeah.
and a lot of good golfers. I think the Masters is the best major event, and I don't know if it's the green jacket or the music or whatever it is, but I've always enjoyed the Masters. I thought it was just the coolest. And I think it is the green jacket now that I'm thinking about it. I think it's just a really cool, it's not a trophy, right? It's very unconventional but traditional in its own way. It's really cool. And I think the course is just spectacular too. You're looking at it, day 2 at least today, it's like everything is perfect condition, as pretty much all the courses are, but just something about Augusta. And it being kind of usually the first major, I think kicking things off gives it a little bit more lust, I guess you could say.
Dylan, thank you so much, man.
Yeah,
best of luck in the pool.
Thank you.
Shop where the players shop. Jets Gear and TrueNorthShop.com are your authentic team stores. Make sure to stock up on all your favorite Winnipeg Jets and Manitoba Moose merchandise today. Visit one of the 5 Jets Gear locations or shop online at TrueNorthShop.com.
Thank you to Dylan DeMelo for the time. As for that Masters pool, the
he
man won.
Oh,
He
Nice.
won the pool.
because he went on ground control.
You heard it here first. He told me ahead of the morning skate on Monday. So congratulations to Dylan DeMelo for that wonderful accomplishment. All right, looking ahead, as of now, the Winnipeg Jets set to take on the Ottawa Senators on Wednesday, and then follow that up on Thursday with a back-to-back in Toronto against the Leafs to close out the 5-game road trip, and then shift things over to Saturday at home against the Edmonton Oilers. Jamie, what kind of challenges lie ahead for the squad this week?
Well, just being better, first off, against the Ottawa Senators. I don't think Winnipeg has ever taken the Senators lightly, and Paul Maurice has touched on the fact that it's about respecting the game. And the Jets, I think, for the most part, have done that, because you just have a couple of losses to Ottawa in the season series. So I expect a far better team on Wednesday against the Ottawa Senators. And then Toronto, all you got to do now, I think you played them very well in a defensive aspect. Now you have to look for different ways to generate offense, because you only have 2 goals in your last 2 games against them. And going back last year, you've only scored on Jack Campbell 3 times in 3 games, because Jack Campbell held him to 1 goal in the one time the Jets played in Los Angeles last season. So generate more offense against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Continue your fine defensive structure against the highest scoring team in the division. And we'll see how they look with Nick Foligno in their roster as well. And then the Edmonton Oilers come to Winnipeg, right? And it's just about how you slow down the two-headed monster of Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, because for the most part, you've done a great job shutting down everybody else. It just seems those two, and then no big surprise that they've had issues with. But I think this is going to be a very interesting week. It's a very tough schedule for the Jets. You're leading into that 3 games after that against Toronto, and then 2 more against the Edmonton Oilers to close out the month. So it gets real tough real quick for the Winnipeg Jets starting on Thursday.
Mitchell, the Winnipeg Jets, they're on the stretch drive of the season. What are you looking for from this team? Obviously we feel like we've reached a point where essentially you're jockeying for position, for playoff position, where you're going to finish. Is it going to be 1, 2, 3, or even 4? But, and you mentioned it earlier, does Ville Heinola get a shot? I guess what's the approach in this last stretch of time? Obviously you want to finish as high as you can, but then you look at the Ville Heinola situation, you go, well, you got to get this guy in. But if you're Paul Maurice, it's about who gives you the best chance to win the hockey game every night, because these points are still extremely valuable. To me, it's such an interesting scenario as the Winnipeg Jets get ready for the postseason. I feel like it's essentially a matter of time before we just know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, and you mentioned it's interesting. I think one thing that they're going to have to keep in mind, especially because as they go on throughout the schedule, I mentioned the 3-day block that they have before they play those Toronto Maple Leafs for 3 games, and then you've got 3 and 5 against you got Edmonton and then Montreal, and then before you finish the season with Ottawa, Calgary, Ottawa again, and then the 2 games against Vancouver that were rescheduled. The one thing I think you're really going to want to see if you're the Winnipeg Jets is making sure Connor Hellebuck stays in that rhythm that has been so important for him. And prior to the Ottawa game, with him being the NHL's first star of the week, Paul Maurice said, I've never seen him play better. And he says he's never felt better. That I think is going to be priority number 1. Make sure that Connor Hellebuck remains in that rhythm. And you also want to make sure you get Laurent Brossoit some starts in as well, just to, offset a little bit of the workload that's going to be a little bit heavier as the kind of season goes on. And then outside of that, I think if you're Paul Maurice, you're also watching for which line combination kind of grouping you want to go with when the postseason comes. And then you probably want to get that group, those 4 lines running a few games, because he said over the course of the year, you want to have a place to go. If things aren't going well, you want to know what different look you can put together to give you a slightly different look or feel or style on the ice, if you will. So I think we're going to get to a point in the last 14, 15 games here where Paul Maurice is going to say, okay, like all my tweaking is over, especially with the forward group, because the defensive pairs have stayed relatively the same over the course of the season, injuries notwithstanding. He's going to get to a point where he's like, okay, this is the 12 forwards and the look that I'm going to go with these 4 lines. Now we got to run them a little bit so that they hit their stride going into the postseason. So I'm guessing those are probably the 2 things. And then, special teams wise, we talked about the power play. The penalty kill has been really good for the most part over the last little while. You're going to want to make sure that those are operating at top notch. So as long as I would imagine that they keep the special teams pretty consistent. You're top 5 in the National Hockey League on the power play. You're just outside the top 10 on the PK. I think those will probably be the priorities. And then if you have an opportunity, say for Ville Heinola to get into a game or whatever, I think that those opportunities will come. I think back to the 2017-18 season where, you got to that game against the Montreal Canadiens and it was just ultimately like, okay, like we got some guys that have been nursing some injuries here as they tried to catch Nashville for the top spot in the Central Division at that time. And they're just like, okay, like we got to rest some guys. And that's when Blake Wheeler sat. That's when Josh Morrissey sat. And there was a number of guys that sat in that game. So that'll probably be the other thing, is making sure that health is health is where it needs to be going into the postseason. I think players are always going to have little bumps and bruises, but as much as you can maintain those heading into the postseason. So that's a long-winded way of saying there's a few priorities, but I expect head coach Paul Maurice has the experience, obviously, to balance all of those and have the team ready to go.
Before we wrap this up, just want to give a huge shout out to Connor Hellebuck, as he was named the first star this past week for the NHL, alongside healthcare hero Melanie McKinnon, as she was a member of the Manitoba's First Nations Pandemic Rapid Response Team. So congratulations to both Connor and Melanie for all the great work that has been done over the past little while. Gentlemen, that just about wraps it up for us. Thank you so much for listening to the Ground Control podcast. On behalf of myself, Tyler Esquivel, Jets TV's Mitchell Clinton, Six City CJOB's Jamie Thomas, and of course, the Masters champion, Dylan DeMelo. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great one.
This has been Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets, hosted by Jets TV. For Jets news, videos, and more, head to winnipegjets.com.